Yoga is whatever you want it to be. This is a phrase I hear non-dharmic people claim about yoga in white wellness spaces. Cringe. Okay, so years ago I used to say this because I was brainwashed by the dominant narrative of Western yoga. It's even printed in an article I wrote that I deeply regret having published. But hey, that was old me, and hopefully those who followed me for years can see my growth journey and all of the unlearning, rather the uncolonizing I've had to do. So why is saying yoga is whatever you want it to be so wrong and harmful? Because you're denying cultural history and the lived experience of those who have received the teachings of yoga authentically. In claiming this statement, you are revealing your desire to mold and shape this vast system of knowledge and practice for your personal gain and profit. You're ignoring the pain, violence, and erasure that Hindus and other dharmic people have endured throughout history. And it reveals your utter ignorance about yoga's history, roots, cultural context, and continued dilution and distortion at the expense of its living culture. It benefits you to say yoga is whatever you want it to be because it sells and because you can make money from it. Sure, a good stretch and a sprinkle of, quote, mindfulness breathing may make you feel good, and sure, you can make money from it. But those of us from the dharmic cultures know that this idea of yoga as just a sexualized physical practice stripped of its wholeness is a complete farce. It's misleading, and you're depriving sincere seekers of the actual truth and path. I'm going to pause here because I want to make sure that those listening are on the decolonial path of warriorship and healing. You're absolutely working towards decolonizing spiritual practices from indigenous traditions, and you are culturally informed and are listening to this as you wish to center the indigenous voice. If this isn't you, leave now. So recently I defended a teacher from the Indian diaspora on Instagram who was being attacked for helping others pronounce Hatha Yoga. It's one of the rare incidents where I truly felt my blood boil, and I stepped in to offer support because guess what? We dharmics should be standing together and supporting each other, especially if we're seeing harm. Some of you Hindus are scared to even call yourself a Hindu publicly because you're afraid of being ostracized by the colonized yoga community you so long to be part of. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. True dharma practitioners protect our culture from vultures. Yes, vultures. Anyway, the point is, I received an utter backlash of white fragility. It was disgusting because there was an attempt by this fragmented collective psyche to own yoga. Note that Hindus never claim to own yoga, even though it stems from us. There is this irrational fear of yoga being gatekept by Indians, and the most hilarious thing is that this very idea of gatekeeping is a projection of the colonial mind. It's the colonizers, the ones sliding into my DMs to threaten and silence me, who are the actual gatekeepers. Don't forget your ancestors banned yoga in India because they recognize this way of life as deeply empowering for Hindus. Your ancestors sought to take it away from us, to disempower us. Decades later, you're repeating the same history now, but in more sinister ways. The irony is that many white studio owners gatekeep yoga. I'm not saying all, I'm saying many. It is my personal experience that they keep us out and keep us from acquiring teaching hours and spaces and pay us less than white teachers. I have proof from my own experience. And I have heard the exact testimony from countless other diasporic Indians that white-bodied studio owners make up reasons why we can't hire their studio. They make it a very difficult process. They stand as obstacles for our visibility. They lie right to our faces and reserve their slots for aesthetically pleasing white bodies. Don't worry, this is nothing new for us. Us children of first and second generation immigrants who have watched our parents grind, we've grown up pushing boundaries and succeeding despite systemic racism and the collective's attempt to remove opportunities for work and success. The greater the adversity, the greater we succeed. You only have to look at the Indians rising to the top in most fields. Anyway, I'll tell you why there was such a backlash by white bodies on this brown yoga teacher's post. because they feel utterly powerless that they don't know Sanskrit. They don't understand it, it's too overwhelming for them, and they just don't want to learn it. And they definitely don't want to be told by a brown woman how to pronounce the words. Imagine a brown body telling a white body the correct pronunciation. The horror! So let's focus instead on her tone. Let's attack her for her tone. Yoga is love and light, you know. How dare she speak to me in that tone? Oh, so let me reveal to you that if our tone is not meek and gentle and passive all of the time, how dare we assume a leadership role? This is a white supremacy problem. This is the mentality of the colonizer. It gives me no pleasure to talk about this. I've been sitting on the fence, not wanting to talk about it or record this episode, but usually I'm set free from this valid anger once I have expressed it publicly. So let me continue this story about me defending this Indian yoga teacher on Instagram. So this toxic masculine white dude, you know the type, all brawn and no brains, wrote a hostile message in response to me calling out the tone policing of brown women in that comment I wrote to support the other teacher. He private messaged me, of course, because he's terrified of a public response from me, terrified of my voice, the voice of someone who knows her culture. He ended this message by calling yoga a sport. He said that on purpose to hurt me because he knows that reducing yoga to a physical sport is deeply harmful to us whose heritage it is. This absolute tool, this buffoon, whose Instagram page is covered in naked pics of him in yoga poses, like ill, knows that calling yoga a sport would hurt me. So he's very aware of cultural harm. With his awareness of what's right and wrong, he still tells me to, quote, do better. Translation, keep silent. Don't speak up when another brown woman is being harmed. What a weak, pathetic man. I have no respect for losers like that. Anyway, the Western yoga space is full of leeches like him, men and women who do know the truth but align with the lies of colonialism to continue doing business using a culture that frankly is not theirs. Yeah, I bet that those words hurt some of the ignorant folks. Welcome to the Hurt Club. These people need to reach into their own ancestral roots, do some digging, find a real connection with their disassociated mind and bodies, and find this living thing inside of them called empathy and the courage to meet the truth. I thank my rage and anger, and I honor them deeply for giving me the courage to speak and create this podcast, without which I would continue to be silent and not protect the Dharma. The fact is, dharmic people did not create this concept of race. This is an evil construction of the supremacist mind. Yet I am forced to use this language because you have to fight from within the system to get anywhere. I know there are also great white-bodied practitioners who do their white supremacy work and who message me with deep support and gratitude. To them, I say thank you so very much. You have no idea what your support means to me, how your positive messages return the labor I put in, and how your support helps in healing the pain of grief. You know who you are, and I'm honored to be connected with such intelligent, compassionate, aware humans. You have my deep respect. And for those completely in the dark about what is happening to yoga and how native teachers from the Indian diaspora, in particular, are being silenced, and yoga is being gate-kept by colonial forces, I invite you to listen to the podcast episode titled Narcissism and Colonialism, the Same Demon. It's in Season 1, Episode 3 of the Prana and Poetry Pod. Finally, a reminder that if you suffer from white fragility, racism, entitlement, and plain stupidity, this episode is not for you. Do not contact me, do not leave dumbass, ignorant comments, and if you do, I don't envy you, because the INFJ monster is a real thing, and you better pray she doesn't come out to play. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. To those who identify as dharmic warriors, let's keep our focus on our sadhana, continue cultivating our inner light, and don't forget to slay those demons along the way. As Miyamoto Musashi says in his book of 5 Rings, it is said the warriors is the twofold way of pen and sword, and he should have a taste for both ways. Rise up, warrior.